Oh my god. Oh my god! Oh my... I was kidding! It was a joke! It was not supposed to happen! This is the third time! God damn it! Seriously though, Trixie was not a character I was expecting to see again in this show. Magic Duel seemed to me to have wrapped up the character in a neat, if rather underwhelming bow. Yet, here we are, a solid chunk into season 6, and I'm dragged out of retirement again because one of the, what I thought was highly unlikely situations has actually occurred in the canon of the show. So let's take a peek at Trixie's latest appearance in this week's episode, No Second Prances. Is that really what we called it? God, it's been so long I forgot how bad these fucking puns are! Interesting that Starlight has apparently still not made any friends outside of the main 6. I mean, Ponyville is like the friendship capital of the world, so you'd think someone would have bitten by now. It was a nice touch that they first characterized her as overly controlling to help frame this as a legitimate reason to be the case, with the tendency testing the patience of even her established friends. Of course, she then runs into Trixie, and the two hit it off pretty well since they both have colored pasts they'd like to move, well, past. To be honest, I wasn't all that keen on the idea of Starlight becoming a main character, simply because we've been down this path a few times now with redeeming villains who just didn't get the idea of friendship, Trixie herself being one of the first. However, this episode used that to its advantage by bringing two characters together that walked a similar path, the two pariahs relating over their past follies. It's a great avenue to further explore both Trixie and Starlight, as they clearly can both relate on this aspect, vent to each other, and help try together come to terms with the situation, or on the negative side, have their pessimism reverberate back and forth and push them further and further into cynicism territory, all of which does happen in this episode and further endeared me to Trixie, fleshing out a lot of her ambiguous motivations and backstory, as well as making me realize that they can still write good stories centered around Starlight. Putting the flaws of these characters on full display instead of relegating them to some unmentioned annals of episodes past is a great call, as it's this baggage that's key to the emotional appeal of both Star and Trixie. Speaking of which, I really love seeing the fallible Twilight again here as well. It was a nice touch that neither her nor Trixie had really buried the hatchet, so to speak, even if the last episode with Trixie in it kind of seemed to paint it otherwise, with the pair parting amicably. A scenario like this with lingering grudges is far more believable and, more importantly, far more interesting. They still reference the events and fallout of Magic Duel, even having the citizens of Ponyville judging Trixie within earshot and shitting on her, which is understandable when you enslave the entire town. They still show up for a magic show, though. There's just no quelling that Ponyville spirit. So this episode serves as not only a way of developing Starlight, which I'm assuming is going to be one of the major goals of this season. I don't know, this is the only episode of season 6 I've watched so far, as well as a continuation of Magic Duel, so that was pretty cool. Getting back to Twilight's side though, seeing her actions realistically not be able to match her words, and being unable to help the pony she's been fancying her students since the beginning of this season was another nice touch that added to this episode overall. We see here that one of Twilight's biggest motivations for teaching Starlight is to use her friendship successes to impress Celestia, proving her to be just as much the teacher she holds her mentor to be, which of course is a mindset that isn't too far removed from Trixie's ulterior motive of using Starlight to best Twi, once again painting the pair as thematically linked. Even though I don't really see how getting another person to cast a spell that Twilight already does in her sleep proves Trixie isn't in any way superior, but whatever. Ironically, Twi was actually being the one least in tune with her own teachings and the lessons of friendship she's so quick to bring up, and it made for a great element in this episode, with Twi's past experiences with Trixie not letting her see past her own biases, too caught up in impressing Celestia to remember her wisdom, which was surprisingly absent in this episode. Instead, Celestia is limited to a few sight gags and exaggerated expressions, taking no action to talk some sense into her student, and instead relegated to a dining hall, utterly silent. The entire time I was expecting her to make some sort of regal entrance and spout the closing wisdom and show Twi how dumb she was being. Instead, that never happens, Twilight solving the problem entirely on her own, great for her character, but an odd misuse of Celestia in my opinion. I'd complain about the random use of fan-favorite characters here, but I'm really not that invested enough in the show anymore for that kind of shit to bother me. The pandas can get away scot-free this time. So, overall, this is probably Trixie's best outing. The episode took a fair amount of time to delve into the actions and repercussions, both socially and mentally, of Trixie, and by pairing her with Starlight, was able to delve a bit deeper into the psyche of someone who made a mistake and is seeking redemption, and is being held socially hostage by these prior errors. The episode also deals with the benefits of putting our preconceived notions aside and dealing with objective reality rather than our own personal biased lens, but at the same time brings Trixie's trademark arrogance and Twi's love for her teacher in to make a quick comment about the folly of using people for your own agenda. No Second Prances, I can't believe that's the name, is my favorite episode of season 6, but since it's the only one I've seen, that doesn't really mean anything. Still, giving my favorite side character the proper send-off she deserved is a great way to close out what will probably be the last time I talk about My Little Pony online. Unless we finally get that Celestia and Luna episode. Look, every time I've said something in jest, it ends up fucking happening. You people should be thanking me at this point. Anyways, that's all I got for this episode. I'm Tommy Oliver. Stay curious. I'll catch you guys next week.